So somebody asked me an interesting question in the laws of dipping one's vessels, tefillat kelim. Let's explain a little bit of the background of that, and then what they asked and what I answered. So the background too is there's two ways to make your vessels kosher. It's learned out from Bamidbar 31. There it talks about the vessels that we acquired in war with Midian, and they were unkosher. They cooked unkosher food, treif on those vessels. So how do we make them kosher? So the verse says there are two things you have to do. It's learned out by the sages. Number one is you have to remove anything that's unkosher in it. If there's unkosher taste in the food, you have to remove it. So how do you do that? Boil it, or with fire. It goes in the same way it goes out. So there's a process of removing the inherent unkosher food that's inside of it, unkosher taste that's inside of it. That's one form of kashering. That's called Hagalla. Now, there's another form of making it kosher, which is dipping it in the mikvah. Now, that's irrespective of whether unkosher food was cooked in it or not. Whenever a Jew purchases a vessel from a non-Jew, we change its status from like non-Jew to Jew. Like we convert it. We don't give it a bris, but we dip it in the mikvah. Okay, and so any vessel so that's what they did when they got the vessels from Midian. They made them kosher. If a pot that they used to boil things, they assumed that they would boil it to make it kosher, to get the forbidden food out. Then they would dip it in the mikvah because they acquired it from a non-Jewish source. So you have the two things, Hagalla and Hatbala or Tevilla. So those are the two of them. A question we're thinking about is which goes first? Do we have to remove, if you get like your neighbor, Andre or Jose or whoever, I don't know, a non-Jewish person, okay, gives you a vessel and they say, here, it's a present, it's a used vessel, enjoy. All right, so what do you do? What do you do first? Do you have to remove the unforbidden taste in it first? Or do you dip it in the mikvah first? What do you think? Kasher first, meaning which way? Through boiling, through cooking? Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Get the trained food out. Get the non-kosher food out.
Anybody think otherwise? Get litzes? Eve? Yeah.
For the sake of argument, I would say dip in the mikvah first.
Why?
Because that's part of your taking possession of it, and really only once you've taken possession of it, then you then have an obligation to make it.
Interesting. So there actually is a debate around this. The what you're supposed to do in the first place is what Moshe said, is that it's similar to like let's say somebody goes in the mikvah, but they're filthy, or they have things that are obstructing their dipping in the mikvah, so they have to remove that first. So that's what we do. We boil it, we remove the forbidden taste first, and then we dip it in the mikvah. So if you do it the other way around, it's also okay, but it's better to do it that way first. So we learned the different types of kashering, we learned the order. So now somebody asked me a question. He said, listen, Rabbi, I bought vessels, pots, pans, whatever, recently from a department store, Amazon, and I never had unkosher food in it, meaning it was brand new. But I never dipped it in the mikvah. But guess what? I've been cooking with it for about a half a year now. So what do? Do I just dip it in the mikvah, or because I used it when it wasn't in the mikvah, do I have to like boil it? Like he asked that question. What do you think he should do?
It hasn't been used for.
It's never been used for
food. Then I think you just have to.
Yeah, just dip it in the mikvah. So that's what I answered. That's the answer. If it was never used, if there's two tracks of making things kosher, it was never defiled along the forbidden food track, so that's not a problem. These are two separate types of kashering. That one's fine, and then I just suggested go to the mikvah, make sure it's clean, make sure the vessel's clean. You dip in the mikvah, and then you can continue using it for kosher food going forward. That's a little bit of the laws connected to making things kosher. They're kind of complicated, but that's a little bit of a background on that.